Good afternoon. It's McCollum on Business, Friday edition, folks. We finally made it to Friday here for the next 30 minutes or so. I'm going to get you updated on what's happening around the business world, stocks, stories, the works here that you expect from us here. I'm Stephen McCollum, and let's get started with that Market Watch. And just what we were afraid of yesterday. I left the show yesterday by saying, will Friday bring us a sell-off? A typical Friday sell-off? And yes, folks, it has happened out there. The Dow Jones right now is down 230 points to 48,540. The S&P 500 is down 80 points to 6838. The Nasdaq's down 317. That AI bubble is still affecting the S&P 500 and Nasdaq right now in terms of their stocks over the last couple days since Oracle reported their numbers earlier this week. The small cap index is no exception here. That's Russell 2K, 30 points down right now to 2565. Bitcoin, yeah, technically it's down 2,300 points, almost 2,400 points here today, but it's still trading in that low at 90,000 range, 90,148. It did get up, I saw, until the mid 92,000s overnight early this morning, and then obviously a sell-off with everything else happening out there right now as well. So typical Friday sell-off, I've just come to accustomed to saying that here. That's why I use the word typical there. Now, end of the month, Fridays seem to be rough days for the market anymore. Stocks we're paying attention to right now, well, first one we're going to look at is Lululemon out there. This is one of the wrong stock here, not Oracle, even though they're down that AI bubble, right? Down 4.17% for Oracle today. The AIs are struggling. We're going to look at Broadcom later on in the show as well, but I'll talk to you about Lululemon as that stock graph isn't there. It is a winner here today so far in the session. It's up over about 9% here as the day has gone on. The athletic, they do athletic apparel. If you don't know what Lululemon is, they announced, and this is what cracks me up all the time. You're the CEO of a company, and you decide you're going to resign. All right, and then the stock jumps 9% because that's exactly what's happened with Lululemon. They announced their CEO will step down at the end of January. And this is mainly because Lululemon has struggled. Very poor performance for that company over the past year. So CEO's moving, stocks up 9% today. Next up, we're going to look at a company called Tilray Brands is the one we're going to look at here. It's a cannabis stock is what this stock is. We're using this one as the example. Every cannabis stock is through the roof today. Tilray right now is up 33% right now as well. Simple reason why this whole industry is a winner today in terms of the stock market. They're all up because the Washington Post reported that the Trump administration was looking to cut federal restrictions on marijuana. They're going to reclassify it from where it's one of the hard drugs right now. They're going to reclassify it as what's coming our way, it looks like. Well, that reporting there, every cannabis stock is a big today, including Tilray Brands, 33% up here today. And then we're going to look at Costco here as well. Costco, well, they're down a little bit today, 1.61% for them, which is interesting. They did top their earnings and revenue expectations in the fiscal fourth quarter. They did report yesterday. Costco posted per share earnings of $4.50. That's a bigger number, a lot bigger number than the $4.27 that analysts expected. Revenue was $67.31 billion. Well, the forecast was only $67.14 billion. The stock as a whole, if you look at the whole year, because even with this news, they're down the 1.64% today. Even with that news, I pulled the macro side of Costco here. Costco is actually down 3% overall for the whole year as well. So this is an underperforming stock out there. We do have an interesting story during this call. It's coming up here in this segment later on. But they did do a call yesterday, and they focused on some wins that they're having here this holiday season. I found it interesting that they highlighted these specific things. So we'll talk about that here coming up in just a little bit. Next time when we come back and look at the market watch for the final time this week here on this Friday, we're going to look at stocks like Broadcom. You saw Oracle there just a second ago, down 4% again today. All these AI stocks are taking a hit right now. And we're going to look at Broadcom, a company called Fermi out there. They're an energy and hyperscale development company. And then we're going to look at RH as well. They're the home furnishing company we pay attention to here on the show as their stock fluctuates up and down a lot there. We'll take a look at them again today as well and everything. But let's look at some national things that have happened that'll help some companies out as well. And this one's interesting to me because AI is all the rage right now. Everybody wants it in their state. Everybody wants the revenue, etc. And we're no different here in Arizona, right? Phoenix, Mesa, Chandler had the big vote last night for that data center down there in Chandler. And now President Trump has signed an executive order, and he did it late yesterday, and it's aimed at blocking states from crafting their own regulations for artificial intelligence. With this executive order, President Trump said the industry is at risk of being stifled by a patchwork of onerous rules, is what he said. And this is all because the United States is in a battle with Chinese for supremacy on the AI models. This is a national security issue here to the president and his administration. Members of Congress from both parties, as well as civil liberties and consumer rights groups, they've all pushed for more regulations on artificial intelligence. Those people say that there's not enough oversight to the technology and how powerful that it can become. We had the story yesterday about OpenAI being sued because of the way they claim they manipulated somebody to not just kill himself, but his mom also in that deal from that story. Right. So that's kind of where the regulation side come from. President Trump yesterday did tell reporters in the Oval Office that there's only going to be one winner. And it turned that he basically is referencing the nation's race to dominate artificial intelligence. And China's central government gives its companies a single place to go for government approvals. And, we have more, obviously, 50 different regulations with 50 different states and stuff like that. So, specifically, what does the executive order do? Well, it does direct the attorney general to create a new task force to challenge state laws, and even directs the Commerce Department to draw up a list of problematic regulations that they find and they see out there within the states. It also threatens to restrict funding from a broadband deployment program and even offer grants programs to states with AI laws. So interesting enough, right? That's from the national perspective from the Trump administration, just signed into effect yesterday. When we come back after our first break here in a little bit and go into our second segment, one of our local stories is about AI regulations here in the Phoenix area, and one city's adjusting some things out there. So kind of an interesting day here on the AI side of things, and we'll get to that here coming up in our local section after the break. But first, interesting story here. Speaking of AI, Disney is kind of buying into OpenAI as well, and that artificial intelligence type of stuff. Because Disney is now investing $1 billion into OpenAI. It's going to bring characters, their characters, Mickey Mouse, Cinderella, Luke Skywalker, all the Disney characters. They're going to bring them to the AI companies, OpenAI's Sora video generation tool. It's a licensing deal that the two companies announced yesterday afternoon. At the same time, Disney went after Google, demanding that the tech company stop exploiting its copyrighted characters to train its AI systems there at Google. The OpenAI agreement makes the Walt Disney Company the first major content licensing partner for that Sora generating tool. It uses generative artificial intelligence to create short videos. Now, you're going to be able to add Disney characters into those videos. It is a 3-year licensing deal, and fans will be able to use Sora to generate and share videos based on more than 200 Disney. And now don't forget, Disney is a big deal here, right? 200 is going to be Disney, Marvel, Pixar, even Star Wars characters are included in that 200. AI video generators like Sora, they're coming out huge right now. They're really popular. They've impressed everybody with their ability to quickly create realistic clips based merely on text prompts. But a bunch of these videos have flooded social media. Clips depicting celebrities and dead people, and dead public figures, etc. Well, it's obviously raising a lot of worries about AI crowding. AI made up stuff, crowding out human created work instead of because AI is so easy, right? And that's human people that create stuff like we do here at our company. Well, it can easily be recreated with AI. Could put us everybody out of what we do here as well. So there's a lot of concerns on that side of things as well. But Disney licensing their material to the OpenAI, which is that Soro there. So make all the videos you like. I love seeing some of those videos. People are very, very creative out there for that stuff as well. So, we talked about Disney today. We've talked about the AI world of things. Well, let's do an update here on Apple and their Apple Store and their monopoly that they were ruled that they had out there. It went through the appeals court, and that a federal appeal court did announce yesterday, and they backed a ruling that held Apple in civil contempt for defying an order, and brazenly defying, is what the judge has said, an order designed to open its iPhone App Store to other payment systems besides its own. But they did make some changes here to the original ruling. But the decision also reopened a door for the company to collect commissions and payments from the rival options. This is a unanimous decision, by the way, by the three-judge panel for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and it basically it did everything to validate that really big contempt order. The one where that judge was just scolding on Apple and ignoring his rulings. That was the one that was issued in April. We told you about here at McCollum on Business. Well, that judge Gonzalez Rogers, she condemned Apple for violating a key part of her September 2021 findings in that legal battle. This is the one between Apple and Epic Games, where Epic Games was kicked out of the Apple Store because they were getting payments outside of the Apple Store, so they got kicked out of there. This is the continuation of that lawsuit here in the Americas. The Ninth Circuit's 54-page decision did overturn, though, one key part of Gonzalez Rogers' civil contempt crackdown that prohibited Apple from collecting commissions when consumers make an e-commerce purchase within an iPhone app through a payment system that operates outside of Apple's control. That's the only one that she kind of changed here. The appeals court did change from that initial ruling out there. The appeals judges decided the ban that would have prevented Apple from imposing the fees on those rival payment options, well, they determined that it was too severe and actually ordered Gonzalez Rogers to reopen the case to determine a fair commission, and specifically a fair commission rate that Apple can charge those third-party companies. The ruling did provide some general guidelines for how Gonzalez Rogers might determine a fair commission on those external payment systems. They didn't make any suggestions about what the percentage might be, though. The appeals decision did agree Apple had made a mockery of Gonzalez Rogers' attempt to create more payment competition in the iPhone App Store as part of that case. And this case has been going on forever, it feels like, right? But it dates back to 2020. Back in 2020, that's when Epic, they make the game Fortnite, folks. Now your kids know it if you don't. It filed a lawsuit alleging Apple had set a price gouging system within the iPhone App Store, and it turned into an illegal monopoly. They won it in the EU. Epic did. They've won it most part here in America. We're seeing some changes here now, like I said, with that. But that is a big update there, as Apple's not winning the appeals case either for the most part. And now let's talk a little bit about just a national company that, well, it was bought out a long time ago by a foreign company, but they still operate big here. They have over 100 factories here in America. Let's talk a little bit about Anheuser-Busch itself. Well, now they've announced they're selling their decades-old New Jersey brewery, and they're going to close down two others, one in California and one in New Hampshire. It's all part of a broader strategy to optimize production. The Anheuser-Busch brewery over there in New York, New Jersey, it opened in 1951. It is one of the company's longest-running facilities. It's going to be sold to the Goodman Group in 2026. Then you go to that California site over there in Fairfield, California, and then the New Hampshire one's in Merrimack. But those facilities will close in early 2026. Well, Anheuser-Busch plans to shift production from these three facilities to its other U.S. facilities. They're saying that that's going to enable them as a company to invest even more in their remaining operations, and also in their portfolio of growing industry-leading brands, according to a spokesperson with Anheuser-Busch. So they also said they had been taking steps to modernize its U.S. manufacturing operations over the past 5 years, and it's all to meet demand for this company. That includes investing nearly $2 billion in its 100 facilities across the country. Now, if you remember back in May, we talked a lot about this. The Anheuser-Busch told Fox Business that they were investing $300 million in its facilities, its beer making facilities across the U.S. They want to bolster the manufacturing jobs across the United States while also supporting veterans who are pursuing manufacturing careers. So now are there gonna be layoffs? Well, some people might not like this, but they did say they're gonna help relocate the 475 full-time employees working at those three facilities. Each of them will be offered a full-time role elsewhere in U.S. operations. So they're not going to specifically lay anybody off. You'll have a deal to you. Now you might have to move and uproot your family. So some people I'm sure, will turn it down, but giving at least an option on that. They didn't specify where, but the employees will get relocation stipends and new location skills training as well if they move on. So I read this story initially as just oh no, Anheuser Busch, and an international company shutting down its deal. They're going to start brewing stuff elsewhere. That is just getting rid of some old factories. They still have over 100 factories here. They pumped a lot of billions of dollars into modernizing these factories. So they're not going anywhere. It has nothing to do with any sales being down. It's just a strategy here for Anheuser-Busch, at least for now. We'll keep our eyes on that as well. And we told you earlier about Costco stock. We showed you their stock and everything. Gave you their numbers. They had good numbers here. Well, they also, during that earnings call that they did yesterday, the Costco CFO was on that call. He brought up a few what he calls fun facts about the holiday selling season so far. And I find this interesting. Were you one of the people here that did this stuff for Halloween? Costco sold about 358,000 whole pizzas. Yes, they sold those at their Costco U.S. food courts. That's a 31% jump from last year for Costco in those pizzas. Did you buy one of those around the Thanksgiving time or the Halloween time? If you want to jump ahead to Thanksgiving, about 4.5 million pies were sold in the 3 days before Thanksgiving. That's the equivalent to roughly 7,000 pies per warehouse sold. Did you buy your Thanksgiving? How are there? I'm not a big fan of Costco pizza. I think it tastes like cardboard. How are their pies? Are their pies any good? That's my question. Hey, and then Black Friday, skip ahead to that. Costco had more than $250 million in non-food online orders, specifically on Black Friday. That's a record for Costco's U.S. e-commerce business as well. Costco's numbers were good. You saw that with their stock being down, actually, with that side. But interesting nuggets that they were touting there in their quarterly reporting as they of course, are Costco trying to keep the businesses rolling out there. And folks, that's what we're trying to do here at McCollum on Business here on this Friday. We'll keep it rolling. I told you earlier, we talked about the executive order for President Trump on the AI buildings. Well, the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, they did something yesterday. We'll get into that around AIs and stuff. Plus, Market Watch. We'll look at Broadcom, Fermi, RH as well. Come on back, folks. It's Friday's edition, McCollum on Business. And we're back here, McCollum on Business. You just saw the commercial there for the Real Matrix. It is up as new episode live, I'm sorry, on demand, excuse me, on Wednesdays at noon. 11th episode is out here, not just at Robat TV, where you can find it on its own channel as well. Ratings are through the roof for this show here with the Angry Patriot. He asks that you just go into it with an open mind. Of course, you can find all of the shows that our company does produce here on its free YouTube page. And of course, most of them, except for this show, do have a free podcast as well out there. The Real Matrix on demand on Wednesdays, new episodes at noon. Check it out as well on any of the sites we've already talked about. And good programming there for you if you're into that type of stuff, which it's an interesting watch if you're into that. And if you're not, hey, go into it with an open mind and see what happens there for you. Of course, you got the main event, which, in the can for the week here. We're live 8 to 10 a.m. here at Robat TV. On demand now here at Robat TV. Of course, also on a YouTube channel as well. Free podcast system. The TME Sports Show is where you can find that. Follow us on the social medias at TME Sports Show as well. We appreciate it. This show, as soon as we're done here, 11 o'clock live, well, we put it up on demand at Robat TV. Of course, on the YouTube page. No podcast version of this show. You just find it on the YouTube page or here at Robat TV as well. And then, of course, the pit stop. The lawsuit is settled between the two teams and, of course, the NASCAR. We're getting the information slowly leaking in over the last 24 hours, and we're going to monitor that. The show's on hiatus until January, February, because mostly the racing season's done now. F1 just finished up last weekend. We'll see what the answers we get, if anything, over the weekend. Maybe we'll do an emergency show next week. Follow me at the Pit Stop Talk. Is where you can find me on the social medias. And we'll give you updates, everything. Of course, that show is here at Robat TV on demand as well, on that YouTube page. And of course, free podcast system for that as well. For the Real Matrix podcast, just search at the Real Matrix. It'll pop up on your favorite podcast system. And then the Pit Stop at the Pit Stop Talk is where you can find that in the podcast systems as well out there. And folks, let's get this Friday finished up strong here with another look at the Market Watch. Yeah, that Friday sell-off that I was kind of fearful was coming today is in fruition. Blame me if you want to, but it seems to be a trend on Fridays a lot lately. Fridays in the end of the month, right? Dow Jones is still down 219 points right now. The S&P 500 is down 74. NASDAQ's down 326 as we're looking at it. Then the Russell 2K, the 26 points down for that small cap index. Bitcoin, it's down 2,100 today. It did go up overnight, but still in that 90,470 range here for Bitcoin here today. Stocks we're watching right now, we're talking about AI stocks. They're kind of sinking the market and a big parts of it, especially the S&P and the NASDAQ over the last couple of days. So we're going to look at Broadcom as our first stock here in this session. Well, investors are very concerned about the artificial intelligence firms and what they're spending money on. Is it going to continue? Is this an AI bubble? Yeah, Broadcom stock is down 10.59% right now as well. It's down 10.6% as you see it fluctuating on your screen there. It's down that amount, even though they announced better than expected financial reports for their fourth quarter yesterday. AI sell-off is happening. NVIDIA, all of those, Microsoft, Meta, anything having to do with AI is taking a hit these last couple of days. Broadcom, even with good numbers, down 10.37%. Then there's a company we're going to look at called Fermi. Yeah, I've never heard of them either, but I looked them up here. They're an energy and hyperscale development company. I'm not even sure what that means, but they caught my eye today. Well, they lost a big contract. They're down 32.79% here on this Friday. They lost a $150 million funding deal with its Matador Power Grid's first potential tenant. The grid would provide 11 gigawatts of support for fast-growing AI data center complexes, which would eliminate the reliance on already strained, of course, public power grids that we're seeing out there. They lost that $150 million funding deal. Oh, their stock's down 32% here today based off of that news. And then we're going to look at RH, right? The home furnishings company. They make all furniture, et cetera, out there for RH. Well, they're up today, 8.66% right now. They reported mixed third quarter results. They reported $884 million in revenue. That did come in line with the consensus estimate, but they did soften its fourth quarter margin and revenue forecast. But that doesn't matter. Usually you soften your forecast and your stock goes down for the day and takes a hit. RH is kind of bucking that trend here, 8.48% up right now for RH. And now let's get into, we said earlier in the show about the data centers, the executive order from President Trump there in that first section. Well, it's kind of an interesting contrast here because the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, well, they overhauled their zoning ordinance at a meeting on Wednesday about AI data centers and everything. So, one major update that they did approve, well, it's a change in how the county actually defines a data center. Board chair there of the Corporation Commission, he says the modernized ordinance was about 6 months in the making. Multiple municipalities, Phoenix was a big one kind of driving this. They've addressed zoning for data centers in recent years as facilities keep coming under greater public scrutiny. One, the size of the buildings. Two, the energy they demand. That means we pay more on that energy because of them out there as well. So they did make these changes, and basically, you know, basically they changed, how you designate a data center, right? Before it was just the size of the building, what they do in it. They've kind of shrunk that down a little bit into a more time of a deal. So, the in the first time this passing of the law is the first time data centers have actually been defined in county zoning rules. Before it was just, hey, it's a big building causing a lot of energy, right? It only allows for them to be built in some industrial areas, so no neighborhoods, etc. They basically said, the commission, you need to make sure that you're not having a detrimental impact on the area. Obviously, we don't want people to be data centers to a local to be located near people or residential areas, according to the Corporation Commission. They also noted that the county zoning only applies to unincorporated communities. So any data centers that would want to be located in Phoenix or Chandler, where they're subject to the jurisdiction of Phoenix and Chandler. Our jurisdiction is over the unincorporated parts of Maricopa County, is what they're looking at for these changes. Cities within Maricopa County can still set up their own laws dictating where the power-hungry facilities can be built. And then you got the executive order from the president we talked about earlier today. It's going to come into a conflict here, or is they just going to keep willy-nilly going out there? Of course, Chandler had their big conversation last night on their data center down there. We told you about that vote, I believe, on Wednesday. Um, um, Kristen Cinema is the person kind of driving that as well. And driving, people going into that. Well, saw going into this vote on that Chandler one, residents' emails to city council was running 20-1 against the data center. And then, Kristen Sima got involved and was advocating it through her law firm and everything. So basically, Kristen Cinema, nobody knew about this Chandler data center before, and then Kristen Cinema got involved with it, and then it became very, very focal point with the media and things to that effect. I do know it was a packed house last night. I saw that if you weren't there by 6 p.m., you had no place to go inside. People were standing room only by the time that the meeting did start there as well, and everything. So the plan, by the way, thumbs down, voted down there by the Chandler City Board as well. So we'll keep our eyes on this and these data centers and where they're being built and these local laws compared to the executive order President Trump had just signed. And got some bad news here also for Chandler. NXP Semiconductors, their big plant down there in Chandler, where they're going to cease production of its radio power product line. And they're going to close its radio frequency gallium nitride fab down there in Chandler. They're going to do that all by 2027. NXP is a Dutch global semiconductor manufacturer, operating down here in Chandler. Well, the reason they give for this stopping of this production, a lack of return of investment on mobile operators and understated global 5G base station deployments. Basically, they're not getting their money back for this investment. is why they're shutting it down as well. So that's why they're exiting that specific market. And it's going to affect Chandler employees down there as well. NXP did inform employees of its intention to scale down those operations in Chandler. They do expect to produce the last batch of those wafers by the end of quarter 1 in 2027. So we don't know the number of NXT employees that will be affected by this. The company did say that the reduction will, quote, happen over time, unquote. Obviously, 2027, it's a couple years, well, year basically, with quarter 1, 2027, expecting to be the end there. NXP did not disclose an estimated number of employees impacted by the closure, but we can tell you NXP employed about 750 people. They have two fabs down there in Chandler, and about 750 people between those two fabs. So, how many of those are going to be able to stay? How many are they going to have to start laying off? Is something that you got to start thinking about down there, and for NXP working. And then we talk about water rights here a lot, groundwater savings credits. We talked about that with those SRP canals, kind of connecting with the Arizona Central Project canals, right? Well, now Governor Katie Hobbs. Let me restart this. Governor Katie Hobbs, she announced Arizona's first issuance of those groundwater savings credits. This was all granted under the state's new Ag to Urban Groundwater Conservation Program that was just signed into law over the summer. So these are the approval of these groundwater savings credits. They provide enough water for 825 new homes to be built. They're going to save over 437 million gallons per year compared to if these grounds were used for agricultural use. So we're going to stop agriculture and start building houses on them, right? An 80% of reduction in water is what it equates to, basically, by changing and putting buildings, etc., on these buildings. Four Star Real Estate Group, well, they submitted their application to the Arizona Department of Water Resources. They did that immediately after the law became into effect over the summer. And just 45 business days later, that agency issued Arizona's first groundwater savings credits to them. These credits were incorporated into Four Star's application for a certificate of insured water supply. Four Star's certificate of assured water supply was issued for public notice that very same day. So they moved quickly now that this law is passed. Arizona's Ag to Urban program, well, it passed the Arizona legislature. It was a bipartisan supermajority that passed it in the Senate and a bipartisan majority there in the House. June 30th, 2025 is when it officially passed as well. So this is they're calling it a landmark legislation, and they use those terms a lot here when they do these big types of bills. But it is part of Governor Hobbs' continued work to protect Arizona's groundwater supplies and even facilitate sustainable economic growth at the same time. Governor Hobbs has also created programs to increase 100-year assured water supply protections across Arizona communities. They even taken historic action to protect groundwater supplies outside of Phoenix communities, right, in rural Arizona as well. So Governor Hobbs, that bill passed. Whatever you think about it, but credits are out there for housing companies. It's developed for housing people, housing companies to build houses, etc. And like I said, this so far has equated to an 80% savings in water usage instead of having it be a big farm for wheat or cotton or whatever to that effect. And we'll leave you here today with the final story. If you haven't bought your Powerball ticket yet for Saturday night, start thinking about it here. 41 draws without a winner. Yeah, that means the Powerball lottery jackpot has climbed to $1 billion. $1 billion. That's the seventh largest in the lottery's history, folks. We don't advocate gambling and that stuff, but hey, if you want to have some fun, throw some money down there on the Powerball this weekend. $1 billion jackpot might grow after that on Saturday, but just wanted to let you know about that as well out there. And I'm not saying I'm gonna brag about winning the lottery here, the $1 billion lottery. I'm just saying there's going to be signs that I won it. One of them will be I won't be here on Monday. Just kidding. I'll still be here. I got nothing else to do. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. McCollum on business.